This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Do you remember maybe like 5-10 years ago, it seemed like everyone was rocking a Sigma 18-35 f1.8 lens on their APS-C, Canon, Sony, even Micro Four Third, GH2, 3, whatever was out at the time. I always wondered, like as time progressed, why they never released a full frame version, or a full frame equivalent version of that lens. I thought it was gonna sell like hotcakes, and 10 years later, we have it now. But I don't know, it didn't hit as hard as I thought it would. But you know, I used it in real world shoot. I have some thoughts. Okay. The first note that I made after coming back from my portrait shoot with this lens was, I think that this is gonna be a more popular video lens than photography lens. Now, for example, it doesn't really replace that many prime lenses. You know, it's a big lens. It replaces my 35. I usually leave the house with a 35 and 85. 35 is my favorite for environmental portrait. This is like the holy grail environmental portrait lens. So it replaces 35. It gives you a little bit extra on the wide end. I don't know many people that carry a 28, so we'll leave that out. It damn near replaces a 50. So let's give it that. So it replaces a 35 and 50. Cool. But if I'm only leaving the house with one lens, I still can't get this. I feel like I'm missing something. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't get a distortion-free portrait. If you're shooting people, you want more than 45 to make them look good on camera. And so I felt that I would have easily gave up this f1.8 aperture on this lens to have a lens that's a 2.8 aperture that can go up to 70 millimeter, and I can get distortion-free portraits with that lens. So this lens paired up with an 85, that's a dream. I have my 35 with some extra reach on each side, and then I got my 85. Great. But the point is that if you're leaving the house with one lens, because it's a big lens, again, it's not as versatile as I thought it would be. I think for video, it's gonna be more versatile because not only do we have clear image zoom on our cameras, but these cameras can shoot, most of these higher resolution cameras can go into APS-C mode, and you can get a 4K crop on your video. Now it extends the zoom even further on this lens, so you're essentially getting almost 2 different focal lengths with it. Versus on photography, you can't really do this. You can't maximize the sensor with the megapixels and going into APS-C mode. You know what I'm saying? So overall, like I think that if you're getting this lens to replace your 35 environmental portrait, you want that wide aperture, it's so much easier to just go in post and blur out the background a little bit in software, and then just leave the house with the f2.8 lens, and you have more versatility. I'd rather do that personally. For video, you can't do that. You can't go in software and just add blur. So I think that this offers a really unique package for video shooters. Did I make any sense? The second thing, this lens, it's a chunky boy, 960 grams. So I put the 2470 and a 7200 next to it. And it's about like half of the difference between them. It's smaller than a 70-200, but it weighs about the same. So it's the 70-200 G Master weighs 1045 grams. But at the same time, I could one hand this lens and not feel a lot of strain because it's more condensed. The weight's more condensed on here, so it's not terrible. But if you're replacing a prime lens for something like this, you're definitely gonna feel the difference, 100%. After looking at the images, there should be no surprise here. This lens has that clinical Sigma look, you know, where the image is very crispy, very contrasty. Does a pretty good job with flaring, but I do have a complaint about the flaring though. For some of the shots that I was shooting against the sun, those shots were being ruined by the flaring in this lens. So it wasn't like streaks of flare, you know what I'm saying? Like I can manipulate by just adjusting the angle that I'm taking the portrait, but this one was giving me like little specks of like flare artifact, like purple little dots, and they were on her face toward the middle of the picture, and that was ruining the portrait. Sure, I can remove it in post, but that's something that I did notice that I normally don't get with most lenses. So that was interesting. The fourth note that I put down was for video. I did a little focus breathing test in the real world, and yeah, you can see that it does have a little bit of focus breathing, but not much. And I think it's really well controlled. I feel like in the real world, you won't be able to notice much of a difference. And I was pretty impressed by that. I mean, actually, most of Sigma lenses nowadays they don't have, their focus breathing is controlled really well. And another thing that I like to test out with lenses is how well they maintain focus while rack zooming. Okay, and this is the f1.8 aperture. I thought it was going to be much worse. I thought that once you rack focus, or once you rack the zoom of the lens, that the image was just going to go blurry and then just snap back into focus. And with this lens, just slightly blurs out and then it grabs them, and you don't really notice it unless you slow it down. So pretty good job on that. Number 5, the autofocus was reliable. It was fast, it was accurate. Even shooting directly into the sun, I was getting tack sharp eyeballs. Photo after photo after photo. Very impressed there.
All right, so I want to take a quick moment and thank the sponsor of today's video, Squarespace.
Squarespace makes it so easy and seamless to set up a website for your business, whether that's an online store, a blog, or a personal site like mine. Squarespace has this thing called Blueprint AI that gives you unique design and styling options to best align with your brand. A feature that can give your site some personality. I'm currently tinkering with it right now because I plan on doing an entire redesign pretty soon. It's also been effortless to manage my online store, selling my presets, and even more recently, I've been building out an appointments feature that will allow my viewers and site visitors to schedule a mentorship call with me in just a few quick steps. So if you use the coupon code Manny, you will get 10% off your first purchase with Squarespace. So check them out. Link will be in the description.
If you want to know all the technical details about this lens, you can check out the link in the description in an effort to try to keep this video as short as possible. But when it comes to my recommendation of this lens, I actually had to sleep on this one because the use case of this lens, it just varies so much that only you would know if it's worth it or not. You know, personally, I love the idea of one lens replacing a couple of my favorite focal lengths, but a part of the reason why I love primes is for the size and weight saving. So, overall, I do think Sigma crushed it with this lens, but I think its appeal in the market is going to be more niche than I originally thought, mainly because it's just not one of those extremely adaptable lenses that you can throw on different cameras, but that's my take.